good morning. Judah wanted to join us today, so here he is. Here, I'll go like this. Boom. There you go, son. All right, so we are in John chapter 20, verse 11. We are still at the garden tomb. In verse 11 it says, "But Mary stood outside by the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down to look into the tomb. And she saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. Then he said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping?' She said to them, 'Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him.' Now when she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, and did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, 'Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?' She, supposing him to be the gardener, said to him, 'Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away.' And Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' And she turned and said to him, 'Rabboni,' which is to say, teacher, and a little bit more. Jesus said to her, 'Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and to your Father, and my God and your God.' Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things to her." So, Mary is heartbroken. She thinks he's gone. She thinks he's been stolen. She thinks he's missing. And she doesn't know where he is. And so what does she do? She goes back to the tomb. She looks inside, and there are the angels. Now, it's funny because the angels say, "Where are you looking for?" Right? Where are you looking for? What is it? Because they've taken my Lord. Now, why do you look for the living amongst the dead, they say, right? It's fascinating that Mary goes in, she sees angels, and yet it doesn't seem to convince her. It doesn't seem to satisfy her. And then she goes and she sees Jesus. But she doesn't recognize him. And we can talk more about the not recognizing him some other time. There's a good bit later in the next chapter about that. But I guess I'll just mention that you'll see in the Gospels something about the resurrected Lord. He looked different. And there are a couple different theories behind that. So now I guess I just opened that rabbit trail and we're walking down it. I'll go back to my main point later. But simply, this is the best I've got for you, is that three. I guess point 3, some just maybe say that he supernaturally conceals his identity. That's possible. Being God and all, he can do what he wants. But 2 other possibilities is, one, that he received his resurrection body, that when we are transformed and our bodies are conformed into the image of his body, we'll have his glorious body, that we will receive new bodies, and that they might look different. So we might have a different physical appearance. We'll still have a body, but it'll just look different. And so that's possible. It's just because it's his resurrected body. Another theory that is possible is the fact that we were told that on the cross he was beaten to the point where he was unrecognizable as a man. And so even if, give or take, his body healed supernaturally, that his restored form actually looked different. But there's hints where they continued, the people didn't recognize him until he would do something. It was a mannerism or the way of his voice that would clue them in. And so, so that's the whole not recognizing him thing. But here we go. So, she doesn't recognize him. And then it says, she's asking, well, where is he? They've carried him away. If you know where they've taken him, will you tell me? And it's funny, again, that she already saw angels. And yet, She still thinks he's carried away. Now she sees Jesus, and she still thinks he's carried away. And I think all of us experience seasons where we don't see the presence of the Lord, where we don't see Jesus, where he's not around. And so I think it's important for us to know that we'll find him if we keep looking for him. And so this is what happens is she can't find the Lord. She feels an absence of God in her life. She's seeking for him. Ironically, she speaks to an angel, angels, and yet she still feels the distance. She still doesn't know where her Lord is at. She sees God himself working, and she doesn't get it. It's like she's blinded to the fact that God is right there in front of her. Christ is right there the whole time, and yet she's still wondering where he is. And you and I sometimes go through these seasons where, where's God? Where is God right now? I feel distant. I feel far away. And yet we don't realize he's right there. He's the one ministering to us. He's the one talking with us. He's the one doing a work in our lives right now. But it might be painful. It might be hard to understand. And then we can go on with life for a while, not realizing that God's moving and he's working in our midst. And as that song goes, even when I don't see it, you're working, right? That's the idea, is that we don't see him at work, but he is working. And then maybe after a season goes by, something happens, something clicks. Jesus looks at her and says, Mary. And he says, he says, Mary. And she says, Rabboni. That's only used twice in the Gospels. Her and blind Bartimaeus down at Jericho. But it's a word of affection. It's a word of endearment. It's not just teacher, which is funny because it says which means teacher, because it does rabbi means teacher. But for our Spanish speakers, you guys should know the difference when you add that demonstrative ending, ITO, right? You know, you can call your kid Gordo, and I'm not sure how well that goes over. But when you got your little gordito running around or whatever, you got some funny pet name. I mean, it adds that affection, right? You can take a word that would normally be an insult, but with the ITO on the end, it can become an affectionate word. That's how the words work in our culture. Well, it was the same thing with them. Rabboni was that more personal, compassionate, loving, my teacher. And all of a sudden she realized it was Christ right there in front of her. And though she didn't realize it at first, he was there the whole time. She was there at the tomb, didn't see him, didn't know he was working, didn't know he was moving, but he was right there. And so it's just a good reminder that God is not far. God is not abandoned us. God is always near. Sometimes we just don't recognize him when he's moving. But maybe something will soon click. Because I'm sure she's heard that phrase just as we have. Hey, kid, it's me. Mary. You know, when God says your name in that special way, that you recognize that's him, the one that's talking. And she gets all excited. And he lets her know, hey, don't cling to me. I've got work to do. I'm going to ascend. You need to let the others know. And maybe that's something we need to know too. We're so desperate to cling to him. I know I need to cling to him just to survive. And yet, this world has to be more than us clinging to him. He tells her, go tell the others. Go share the message that I am here. Let the people know I am moving. I am working. But I'm about to ascend to the Father. And time is short. And therefore, don't just sit here and cling to me. You need to get out there and you need to spread the word. And so, a lot of good stuff in this interaction that applies to our life today. We feel like he's not here, yet he's there the whole time. And sometimes we just don't realize that it's Christ the one who's working and moving. And then again, we can't just sit there and want to take it in, and just continually be us and him selfishly. We need to go and tell the others. God is moving. God is here. God is near. And he's coming again soon. So, God bless you guys. Have a great day, a great morning. Judah says goodbye to everyone. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow.